Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Exposing Human Trafficking. Um, Here's another thing that a lot of times people that are stuck in human trafficking and other dysfunctional situationships, because we really can't call it a relationship now, can we? Face, and it's called trauma bonding. And it's a phenomena where the person cannot really leave the abuser. Supposedly there's some scientific mumbo jumbo about dopamine and serotonin and the I don't know, the anxiety and the excitement, the love bombing, and then the deception and the pain and the abuse, and it does something to your brain and screws it up, and it's very hard to leave. Luckily I didn't have that. But with human trafficking, I was very afraid of what would happen to my younger brother and sister. And I don't know what else I could have done to have kept them safe. My mom was not going to take care of them. I never felt loyalty to my stepfather, George Bermuda Sr., who is a child porn producer, human trafficker, a rapist, and a retired school teacher out of the Board of Education of New York. My older stepbrother, George Bermudez Jr., once he did what he did to me, I didn't want him around me. When I left Chatsworth, July 22nd, 1989, I never wanted to have anything to do with him again. I did speak to him once, and I told him if he came around me, I was going to hurt him really bad. That's why he would use drugs or hypnosis to disable me from protecting myself, because he knew that I was going to hurt him if he tried to hurt me again. As for Brad, as soon as I found out that he was involved, and this is Brad Pitt, you know, the movie star who is involved in human trafficking, he is the human trafficking boyfriend. He's the bait they use to get girls. Once I found out that he was involved, I wanted nothing to do with him. Now, the only emotions that I've ever felt for these people is grief. Because this was my family. You know, I was led to believe that my stepfather was my biological father, and that my stepbrother was my older half brother, and that Brad was going to be my husband, because he did a fake proposal and a fake engagement. I guess on a subconscious level, I knew that Brad had something to do with it. And Brad would complain at times that I was really mean to him. But when your fiance is telling you to go ahead and do some human trafficking porn so that you can make money and come back to him, you know, what kind of guy is going to tell his girlfriend to go and do that? Or his fiance, his future wife, and the future mother of his children. But as far as trauma bonding, feeling loyalty to any of them, no. I was always trying to get them arrested. Unfortunately, the law back then didn't really offer much help to victims, and a lot of law enforcement was compromised and already bribed. I I had an experience back in, I believe it was 2017, or maybe it was 2018. I think it was 2017. There was a hurricane that hit in Puerto Rico, Hurricane Maria, and you might remember it, where, there was no water, no electricity, flooding. The island was basically cut off. The politicians there had squandered the resources that had been left there for, before the storm. And it was very difficult to get more resources in the few days after the storm, because the storm was so big and it just engulfed most of the Caribbean. So traveling there from the outside to bring relief and supplies was impossible. And my stepfather, I don't know what was going on through his mind, but this is what my mom told me, that supposedly he never prepared for the storm. And the day before the storm, he went and hung out at his friend's house, and then, I don't know, supposedly blew the roof off his house. And he ended up for 3 weeks having nothing to eat. And if he was lucky enough, after being online for 3 hours at McDonald's, could get a cup of black coffee, but there was no sugar, no cream, no food, no nothing. And I'm a bleeding heart. I always feel bad for people, you know. But I knew he was bad. And my mom's like, oh, he's asking for you. He wants you to call him. And, you know, I wasn't going to open my house to him again, because the last time he came, the last 2 times, was not good. I was trafficked. He was the one who told my older stepbrother, George Bermudez Jr., where I was, so that I could be trafficked. But as a human being, I kind of felt bad for him. And I was real tempted to almost call him. And the goddess, in her wisdom, asked me, do you really want to open that ugly can of worms again? And I said, no. I said, screw it. That's karma. But I've accepted that these people want to be criminals. They've got free will. And all that I can basically do for them at this point is expose them, so that it'll be more difficult for them to hurt other people. But other victims of human trafficking, they fall in love, especially with the human trafficking boyfriend. And even though they know that person is not doing anything good for them, they still stay with them. There were a few things about Brad that weren't right, but I was in so much confusion at the time because of my nervous breakdown and therapy. And he was so convincing that even the doctors and the nurse were fooled. That's how good he is at lying. But once he made it clear, when he came back for me in Tampa, after he had finished shooting Legends of the Falls, and he said he wanted to finish the ritual, and he said, I'm sorry about the ritual. I didn't think it would be so bad. I traded you for fame. That was it. You know, there was nothing ever to discuss with him again. But a lot of girls aren't that lucky. See, I already knew what I wanted in a guy. I had been praying for 2 years for a Christian husband. A Satanist would never do. And Brad had just confessed to me that he was a Satanist. Plus, he confessed that he was behind the entire ritual. My stepbrother kept taunting me during the ritual, saying that Brad was behind it. And so did JR, the owner of JR Saloon, that's also a Satanist. They said that JR, I think, was like the high priest or something. And he said that Brad had paid $3,000 for that, which was half the money that he had made for Thelma and Louise. So, already JR and my brother George Bermudez Jr. were telling me things, but at the time Brad wasn't giving me any reason to believe otherwise. The next day, everything was kind of foggy the next day of the ritual because of the drugs that they used, and I knew something was wrong. I found the sheets were full of blood. I was bleeding. I hurt. I couldn't understand what was going on. I called the cops, and of course they didn't come. Brad claims that he called the cops, but yeah, I don't believe a single word he says. Brad came after work from El Pollo Loco, and he brought me a chicken wing and a chicken breast and some mashed potatoes. And I don't know, he acted like he was surprised. He told me that he was having bad dreams all night and worrying about me, which is bullshit because he was downstairs eating pizza and smoking pot with Alex Jones and the rest of his friends. He was also one of the men that raped me that night. And when my stepbrother came home, he and Brad got into a fight. They fought out of my bedroom, down the stairs. My stepbrother hit Brad. Brad fell on the coffee table. This is what Brad says. And he has a scar under his left eye, a line from where he hit the table. Later that night, Brad came back to my window. He started hooting like an owl. And when I looked out, it was him, and he was trying to get me out. But I was on the second floor, and there was a rose bush downstairs, and there was no way I could climb out. I didn't have any sheets on the bed because my stepbrother had put the sheet in the washing machine. He said I had thrown up, and the sheet got washed, and it was still wet. Because when Brad came and my stepbrother and him got into that fight, I locked myself in the bathroom, and then when Brad left, I locked the bedroom door because I was afraid I'd get hurt. Brad claims on Oprah that he got that scar playing softball. But I'm going to post a link. There's a picture of Brad that was taken in Vanity Fair, and I believe it was June of 2004 edition. Let me find that photo here. Let's see here. I'll leave the link. Let me see. It's a picture that is, I don't know, it's about Brad. And it's a black and white mural picture of him. And then he's got a can of Barbie pink colored paint. And he's painting and writing on it. You'll notice that it's block printing, and that's because Brad has something like dyslexia or something, and it's easier for him to write and print. He always did complain about his ears being too small. My eyes are brown and his are blue, and he always wanted brown eyes, and I always wanted blue eyes, and I used to joke, let's trade. He talks about changing his nose and his chin and the shape of his head. But if you look underneath the left eye, there's a line underneath it, and it says, remove baggage. He didn't have bags under his eyes at this point. The baggage was that scar. So I wonder if he really did have that injury that day, because when he came back trying to rescue me, it was his face was split open, and I was worried that his face would be ruined and it would jeopardize his career. But he said he was all right, but it was pretty nasty. It was a nasty cut. A little bit below that, to the right of that remove baggage, you're going to see where it says improve listening, improve hearing. That was me. I used to complain all the time when we were in therapy because he wouldn't listen to me. And the reason why he wouldn't listen to me was he never heard me. I told him many times I did not want to do that ritual. He didn't care. I told him I didn't want to do human trafficking porn. And his suggestion was, oh, I don't mind, as long as you make enough money to come back out here. He wouldn't listen to me. It was all about him, about what he wanted. He was in control. You know, just like that Bible verse that I believe I don't know, I think it's either Ephesians 5 or Galatians 5, where it says, wives, obey your husbands. That's what he wanted. He wanted someone that he could boss around and tell him what to do and have complete control and do whatever he wanted. If you take a look at the top of the pictures, he's got little circles, and then there's a quote, kind of like when you read a comic book or cartoons, and it says, what a tragic turn of events. Because I kept saying that all of this had been a tragedy. You know, I don't know how Jen and Jolie have put up with him. He's made so many referrals to me and references throughout the years with the media, with his work, if you want to call it work, because I don't really consider him an actor. The only reason he's on the screen is because he's involved in organized crime. You know, I wonder about the boys that should have become actors that really had the talent, but weren't so compromised and crooked as he was to sell out. But if you like, I can start posting more of this stuff and reveal to you the real Brad Pitt, the one that I know, the creep. So comment below if you'd like to hear more. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Share. So that there will be no more victims of human trafficking. Thank you.